You're watching the Randy and Christa show. I'm Christa Orecchio, and this is news that makes you healthier. Randy is out today, but don't worry, we will still be entertaining you and educating you because we're talking about age-related muscle loss. So this goes for anybody 40 or above, or anyone who's worried about losing their muscle and wants to know how to keep it. Here to talk about it is Ph.D. Dr. Jack Tips.
Hello.
Welcome, Jack. You're hailing all the way from Austin, Texas.
Thank you so much, and hello, everyone.
So, I know you and have known you for the last several years as kind of the king of the microbiome. So before we get into this, how did you get, split off into such an interest in age-related muscle loss?
Well, gosh, you can't just be a one-trick pony. Life has a lot to offer.
Of course.
It's much to my chagrin, I think, that, if you look at your life path as you get older, I would have to, someone pointed out once they thought that I might have been a geek if that word was popular back when I was younger. So
a good nerd.
Never was a person who had really the body to do a lot of, let's say, more radical type sports and things. And of course, with the amount of study and writing as a writer and so forth, there can be a lot of time that I spend sedentary. Now, if you take a tendency of a person who's prefers sitting or being sedentary, and then you put them in our culture today, where our entire last 100 years is how to do less movement, less exertion, and have more of sitting around time, it's a recipe for disaster. So there was just a little wake-up call, and I don't know if everyone gets a wake-up call like that, but I had a benchmark in my life that I could carry 100 pounds, a 100-pound sack of fertilizer or something. And one day I just went out to a truck that was delivering some marble to renovate a bathroom. And they said, "Oh no, sir, it's 100 pounds." I go, "Yeah, I'll show these guys." I picked up the marble, which was like 20 inches slabs, and I'm carrying it, and I start losing it. And as I try to compensate for losing it, I'm just tipping over in the yard, and I'm thinking, holy cow, what is this about? It's suddenly like, I can get it. Well, no, I can't. Mm-hmm. And nature was kind and gave me a second example. I was in a sporting goods store, and I enjoy archery. I'm more about the zen of archery, but I grabbed a 70-pound bow, and I tried to pull it back, and I really, really struggled. And it just wasn't happening very well. And that was my second wake-up call, that what I used to do as a younger man was no longer occurring. I was not aware that this silent disease of sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss, was actually working for me, because as a clinical nutritionist, I think I've beat a lot of odds like that because of the good nutrition and good health practices. But if I had a flaw and I neglected something about overall health, it was getting the heart rate up and the exercise and that sort of thing. And once a person begins a sedentary lifestyle, it's so much easier to flop down and read or watch a video or something than it is to say, well, gosh, I haven't had exercise today. I better get out on my bicycle and work up a sweat. So I had that happen. I got the wake-up call, and it put my research and attention into what the heck's going on, because I'm not going to be a man that just wastes away and loses mobility, loses freedom. And the alarming statistics that were coming in my face was all the things that the muscles do for the body. They're not just picking up a pencil, they're running our metabolic system, our glucose, they're running the acuity of our brains. So all of a sudden it was just massive wake-up call, time to get to work.
And good thing you did, because now you can create something that helps others. And I think that it is, like, as you say, they say sitting is the new smoking. And many people accept this almost futility as just part of the aging process. I'm going to decline as I age. And I didn't know until we started talking about this that age-related muscle loss is actually a disease called sarcopenia. So tell me, like, how can we not accept this anymore? What's the pathway from reversing that? So we said 110 is the new 40. How do we do that?
Right. Well, we have to first realize there are things that happen as we age. You know, we're supposed to get smarter, but but there are things that happen. So we look at society and we see this general trend, and it doesn't take an Einstein to say, I notice that all the old people are bent over and creeping along and needing help, and really struggling to open up that jar of pickles, and and things like that. But so I wanted to turn to science and say, well, are there ways to retard the process? And lo and behold, I found the message that I wanted to see, and that is, number one, we don't have to lose our muscle strength. We don't have to have age-related muscle loss. And number two to that, it does not take Olympic athlete training to maintain the body's equilibrium on this subject. So I thought, what a great sigh of relief.
Okay, so if it doesn't take Olympic athlete training, that's a big sigh of relief. What's the best exercise for age-related muscle loss?
Okay, number one, a person needs to be prepared. They need to get ready. If they've been not exercising, jumping into the right exercises, it causes a horrendous high level of injury. If you get injury, you're unable to exercise, and you're defeated, and now you're going to have to sit around for 3 to 6 months before maybe you can try again. And if you do the same mistake, eventually it's not going to work. So number one, we need the prerequisite warm up of exercises, which I can accommodate someone within 9 weeks. So a 9-week warm up. Number two, science and research tells us that more of the high intensity work is what activates the genes, is what turns on the vitamin D3. It's what tunes up the brain. It increases longevity. It increases mitochondrial biogenesis, which is just making more little energy power plants in our cells. So the thing that we're really working up to is the times of the day that we can really, I call it, just get our button gear and get up and get active on something. So for people, this could be the burst of tennis, or the burst of, I'm going to crank this bicycle up the hill. That's what's really
short bursts.
Yeah, short bursts, 2 minutes. That's what's going to give the biggest return, according to science, on your exercise time. We need others. We need stretching. We need the building the muscle. We need elasticity. There's other facets. In other words, look at yoga. People are getting the stretch. They're holding a pose. They're working those muscles. So you could literally be saying yoga is a very, very excellent form of exercise to carry a person through life. Then beyond the yoga, you got to get out and use that body and maybe get some of that high intensity.
Yes. So I'm thinking, have you heard of Orange Theory?
Yes.
Yeah, I got into that recently. So it's like something like that, where you're getting the lifting in smaller amounts and you're getting the burst exercise, and then you couple that with a yoga where you're getting a really solid stretch.
That's wonderful.
Okay.
Absolutely wonderful.
Okay. So this is really interesting that we were talking about protein, and exercise aficionados, they always say, make sure you have enough protein. If you increase your protein, you won't lose muscle. And so is that true, and why? And what is the best form of protein to prevent muscle loss?
Right. Protein has been from the beginning, and we've seen again that anything that we do or overdo becomes a two-edged sword. It does prove out by science that as you start to exercise, you need to increase your protein a little bit, because that's what's going to give the signals for the anabolics, the satellite cells to initiate repair, the mTOR system. That's just a big word I don't even want to pronounce, mechanistic target of rapamycin for people, but that it gets these systems working to build the muscle. So you've got to tweak it up. The other side of that is that today in the endoplasmic reticulum, which is like the mitochondria or something, it's an organelle in the cell, that there can be some trouble folding protein. So a flood or a high protein diet would not particularly be good for someone, because you can just get jammed up with too much protein. So we look at the high quality, but to do exercise and to start and say, well, I want to take my muscles from where they are and I want to show in a month that I have more strength, I have more flexibility, I have more stamina. Those are the three key things that you might set as benchmarks. Now, you want to supplement a little bit of protein. A lot of people will turn to a protein supplement to do that, a powder. Now, the powders have a two-edged sword. Number one, they're processed, and so there may be factors. And number two, a lot of the protein powders are going to kick in on higher insulin. They're going to stimulate the pancreas to release insulin. And we know from metabolic syndrome, obesity, high blood pressure and inflammation, we don't want to keep raising insulin. So naturally, I had to do a lot of research on proteins and powders because people normally want to gravitate now to a powder. And I'm putting my hat in the ringer saying that collagen protein is a ready-made protein. The way I look at it is it's not raising or exciting insulin. Therefore, it's superior for what we want to do.
Okay, so collagen is your favorite. Could you give a 2 and a 3? What about for plant-based vegetarians? How's hemp?
Hemp is wonderful. Hemp is a wonderful protein. Now, I don't know if it raises insulin. I know that the green and yellow pea protein does raise insulin a little bit. Again, it's not the end of the world. A lot of times people are going to make a smoothie and it's going to have fruit sugars and some fructose and things. I don't really like the witch hunt mentality that we have to, orthorexia nervosa approach to everything. We have to give the body some credit for its innate intelligence, and that things can come out in the wash. But I'm a big fan of hemp protein. There can be even some use of whey protein. Whey does raise insulin, but then it's got the immunoglobulins and things. So I said for the program that I want to do, the collagen is great, but I'm not saying that because collagen is great, everything else is bad.
Right.
And you can always, the principle in nature and life, you can always hedge the bet with a little variety. Trust your instinct, see how it feels, and then before you get in a rut of just doing one thing, mix and match and work your way through, and then finally check in with the gut.
Well, that leads me to, I'm skipping ahead to a question. A lot of people in the Whole Journey tribe have struggled with adrenal fatigue, myself included. And so it's a chicken or egg issue, and it is an epidemic, really, of we're just too tired, we're overstimulated, we've run ourselves ragged. And so how do you get over that hurdle? What's the deal? I mean, are you going to maybe talk about the foods that can bridge the gap?
Foods are hugely important, particularly with the adrenal health and that whole issue. But we're just going to, the answer should just be, well, duh, I could have said that. You've got to exercise, number one. You've got to exercise. You can't let adrenal fatigue back you into the corner where you do nothing, because now you're going to waste away. But here's the thing.
Okay.
You don't want to exercise so much that when you're finished, you've got to go lay down for 2 hours, that you've depleted. So it's really about the cellular metabolism. We've got to get the mitochondria working, making the energy. We've got to recover from adrenal fatigue. So that's diet, that's lack of stress, that's supplements, and it is gentle exercise where you have to learn your threshold. If your exercise starts out at all you can do is 2 minutes of stretching, that's where you start. But a week later, you better be doing 4 minutes, and you fight your way out of that adrenal fatigue. But every time you push it too much, and you say, well, I'm feeling good, it'll knock you back. So you have to do the dance and work with it until you are stable with cellular metabolism. And that's going to be predominantly mitochondrial energy and getting a little more biogenesis of the mitochondria, so you've got more energy reserves and keep right on going. The big factor, I think, for so many people in adrenal stress is the S word, the stress of life. And that's where that needs to be brought into focus.
Yeah, so much of it. It's like, yeah, you can put them on all the adaptogenic herbs in the world and the good foods and all of that, but it's changing your relationship to stress, and it's making those hard decisions about careers or relationships or whatever it may be, or your relationship to perfectionism or something like that.
I had a patient once just change a relationship, and all of a sudden Hashimoto's was gone, energy rebounded, and it was just like, I wish I could have taken credit with 2 or 3 months of, clinical nutrition work, but you always have to address the cause, and the causes that impact our DNA and even our mitochondrial energy and the epigenetics that's elicited out of the cells. It's our thoughts. It's our quality of sleep. And of course, it's our diet and other things as well. But we never, in natural health sciences and our holistic model, we want to let go of the emotions, the beliefs, the core beliefs. If you think life is hard and then you die, you will have a pull on your epigenetic expression. So that's where all the help of the holistic model comes from.
Yeah, the holistic model, which I'm completely in alignment with you, that everything affects everything else. And so those are the extended benefits of your program. Is you can't address one part of your health, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, without addressing other parts. They're just all so interconnected.
Christa, there's a core belief that I guess I've cultivated now over many years, but it's contrary to what a lot of people understand, and it's this: the body wants to heal itself. There is a desire inside, and this is why we can do mild exercise and come out of adrenal fatigue done properly, is because we have an inner ally in our innate wisdom, in our innate intelligence, our cellular intelligence, that the body is actually desiring devoutly to make the improvements, but it's become confused. And we have reinforcing behaviors and attitudes, and now the poor body is trying to be a salmon going upstream, or we're trying to walk against the wind. And so the holistic model gives us a chance to look at body, mind, and spirit, and to look at where the rough edges are. And if a person is intrepid and adventurous, they will tackle the variations of life that come to bear.
We both have the belief of using food as your medicine wherever possible. And so now someone who wants to increase their strength and their stamina and their muscle outside of the proteins we talked about, what foods do you recommend?
I've actually got a list, and there's about 20, and I don't think I'm going to think of all 20 right now, but we can start with the different macronutrients. So let's start with vegetables. Are there vegetables? Spinach, kale. The spinach has the folate. The kale is just a powerhouse of nutrients that can support the muscles. We think about fruit, and people are surprised, but sometimes the banana, the grapefruit for hydration, they all have elements, berries because of the antioxidants. What about the fats? Well, bring in the fruit now, the avocado, and certainly the coconut oil, despite recent denigration of the wonderful natural coconut oil. Your medium chain triglycerides are superfoods. And then we go to the proteins, and yes, it can be done with a vegetarian diet, and nuts and seeds are powerhouses for the body, but so would be the grass-fed beef, and the king of the fish is the salmon. But let me put the caveat on here. Everything really should be organic. This is because we've got to avoid, I think at this point, the high pesticide levels that are on kale and spinach in particular, two of our superfoods. But when we cite that, we also want to bring in the fact that when I mention salmon, it is wild caught cold water and that type of thing, not the farm raised.
Not GMO and
not the Franken salmon. And if you look back upstream a little bit about how seafood now is being farmed, and some of it can be good. I mean, some of it they're in 2-mile wide nets, and they move the nets through the ocean. And so there can be some common sense, and we obviously have to farm to feed a burgeoning population of the world, but we've got to get back to our core foods upon which our bodies are built. So keep that caveat in mind as you seek the foods.
Yeah.
Frankly, all health foods are going to build the muscles and have different facets of supporting muscle metabolics.
Now, you have a program coming up called the Limitless Living program, and you have meal plans in that program?
You've just added to the workload. I hadn't even thought about meal plans. No, of course we do. Of course we have dietary guidance. I hadn't really thought of it as a meal plan, but we have mucho dietary guidance, and it's a program that when we talked earlier of that 28 minutes. That's what we're focusing on, is the 9 weeks it takes the body to get ready to spread its wings, reverse some of the aging process, get the body moving, it gets some of the toxic burden off the body, and now people are ready to exercise and not experience injuries. So that's where that's starting.
Okay, so give me an idea. And I know, Jack and I have been working together for years within our Gut Thrive program. Before that, I used to call you in private practice on my toughest gut health cases and say, hey, can you give me some guidance? And so I know and trust the nature of your work implicitly, so I know you're building something amazing here. Now, give me an idea. It's a 9-week program. Kind of what's the trajectory that someone who goes through Limitless Living is going to take?
Well, we're going to start with the 28 minutes a day of guided exercises, and full support of doing them right. Most exercises will be 8 or 9 exercises for each week, and you're only doing the exercise for 1 or 2 minutes, so we don't really get anyone too burned out, and we move through week by week with massive support, daily email videos of health tips and things like that, but a person is able to then move through. When they get to the last 3 weeks, that would be your maintenance for life. That would be your baseline. Never fall below that, the last 3 weeks. And they are graduated, so we're going to start easy. Anybody can do, and gently, baby steps at a time, move people up to where they're actually getting some things done. And then people can maintain at that point, and then not be giving up their muscle strength, their muscle flexibility, their mobility, and their stamina to get out and toss those grandkids around in the pool and get out and do the things of
enjoy life. Feel comfortable and safe in your own body, that you can rely on it, right?
Not be falling and becoming a statistic and that type of thing. Get that jar of pickles open. Exactly.
There's just so much freedom in that. And I commend you for creating this. I know, I've seen it. I was at your house. I know how hard you and Dr. Ben have been working. And I also think, we
didn't mention Dr. Ben, but a chiropractor who is eminently qualified to guide and contribute to this program.
To safely guide and contribute. So, Limitless Living. I'm getting ready to be 40 next year. This would be a good postpartum plan to get back into exercise too, I think. So I'm game. Are you game? You can find out all the details on Jack's new program at thewholejourney.com/muscle. Jack, this was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to diving into your program and to doing it with some of our tribe members.
Wonderful.
Any final thoughts here? Thoughts you want to leave our viewers with?
Well, because if they don't do the program or get into it, the main thing is, you got to start moving from the duff zone to the buff zone, get your button gear, and just get some motion going.
All right, 110 is the new 40. You have been watching the Randy and Christa Show, news that makes you healthier. Thank you so much for being here, and we will catch you next time.